Hello, Tommy. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for inviting me.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Tommy, do you have a favorite quote, something that motivates you, inspires you, you would like to share with our audience?
I sure do. A mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So all I'm asking for is a open mind as we have a conversation today.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you for that, sharing that. Uh, it's a deep one, to be honest. If you think about it, that's a good food for the thought. Great. So, Tommy, imagine this. You are in a room full of ambitious founders and early stage builders, right? No one knows your name, and you have got just a few minutes to introduce yourself, not with your title or where you've worked or what you have built, but with the story that explains why people should trust what you have to say. What would be your story?
I'm a retired teacher and an author. I wrote a book on health and healing. And in 2004, I was given a infomercial contract and I needed to be test marketed for about 6 months to see what would be the best approach. And I was on radio stations all across the country. And about 6 months into it, I had racked up about $85,000 of credit card debt, but I was promised about $100,000 a month. One of the talents, he got in trouble with the FTC about false claims in his book, and they came down hard on the company and they canceled all the new hires, new contract, new talent, and I was left with $85,000 of credit card debt. So it put me into a tailspin, a little depression. And one morning I woke up about a month later and I realized thinking about my dad being a CPA, I was in school to be a CPA. Even though I never got the credential, I've done the work of one. And I realized the bank did not have an invoice, so they didn't have a debt. Then I had remembered my education in accounting, and particularly in banking, that the banks have to have a promissory note to be able to issue a loan. And I never signed a promissory note. And my father at the time was a judge and attorney, and we had long conversations about how fraud undoes all contracts. So I did not have a contractual agreement with the bank because they failed to disclose the crimes they were committing. So I have discovered a worldwide bank fraud that's affecting all the people that have a bank issued alleged credit card.
Oh my God. That is a story to be heard about, right? So you're saying that you had a credit card where you racked some debt, and then you had a litigation or a court case where you had to be face to face with these guys, well, credit card company, I guess, with millions of dollars and very expensive litigation officers, solicitors, lawyers. I don't know what they call it in US. We call it solicitors here in England. And did you won the case, by the way?
Good question. Well, to back it up, I had three credit cards,
Uh-huh.
and I had seen a YouTuber talk about how easy it was to go into federal court, and the judge is so lenient and helpful and understanding that you're a pro se litigant, which I was. And so I filed three federal lawsuits in Los Angeles, and things were
Mm.
going well. We had discussions back and forth. We were coming up to a deposition, which the bank was going to have to bring someone to my office and be sworn in under penalty of perjury and to swear that I actually had a debt. And they had a debt instrument called an invoice. And they had also a certified copy of the uh, promissory note that I never signed. And I also asked for an affidavit of debt, someone in the bank who would swear out that I actually have a debt. And then all of a sudden I was called into court by the judge. And my father said, that's very unusual. Judges, you see, normally just want to know, how's it going, discovery? Do you need any of my help? When are we going to set this for trial? They're basically just a secretary. They're not making decisions. But I got called into court by myself. So the bank wasn't there. And he said, Mr. Kirkpatrick, do you have a credit card? Okay, let me start at the beginning. No, we'll start at the
Mm.
beginning a little bit later on. Do you have a credit card? Well, it actually started off as a gift card. A gift card, pull your card out. So I had to pull my card out. Read right there what it says, credit card. You're an idiot. Get out of here. So he
Mm.
dismissed my three cases. So
Mm.
he thought I lost. Well, about a month later, happened to look at my credit report and I noticed that all three of the bank issued alleged credit card debt was gone off my credit report. So the banks took it off my credit report. So did I win? Not necessarily, but did I win? I'd say so.
Did you have to pay back them that debt?
Well, you see, you said credit card debt. Law is language and language is law. So if you use the criminal's lingo, the criminal's language, you're going to lose every single time. You're never going to win this argument. So if you say you have credit card debt, you've got debt, you can't get out of it, and all you can do is have to pay. All I'm asking the audience to do, and you, is to add one word, which would be alleged. So we watch TV, we see a bank robbery in progress, we see that this guy drops his wallet, and you look at his phone, and you see his name and address and everything. They show it to you on television, but they keep saying alleged. So all I'm asking you and your audience to do is to add the word alleged. So now we have alleged credit card debt, which means the bank has to bring you evidence to court instead of you assuming you have it. Because let me just kind of ask you a question before we get started here. Is it possible? Is it possible for you, your audience, and including me, is it possible that we've been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed?
It's very possible. We are
It's
humans.
possible.
We
Fine. Yeah,
we,
we're
we
human.
consume
So,
information. Yep.
So we've been lied to by the banks for this fraud to continue on. And our family, generation, has lied to us and told us it's a credit card debt. You owe the money. The statement comes, you pay the bill, all that kind of stuff. And that is called indoctrination. So we have once a lie, you tell it over and over again, it becomes indoctrination. But then if you don't question it, you've been brainwashed. So I don't do this to insult your audience. All I'm trying to say something is to wake them up saying, wait a second. If you don't want to be brainwashed, then question. That's all I want you to do is question this, and we will find out if the answers are right. And don't believe me. I'm a doubting Thomas. I encourage you to be a doubting Thomas. So I have some show links in the show notes, and look those up. And also take this podcast to your CPA. And in England, they call them an ACA. So these are certified public accountants who know what accounting is all about, or anyone who's had one class of accounting, they will tell you I'm right. So have a third party verify what I say today. I'm just an accountant who I've discovered a worldwide banking fraud, and I want to share that with your audience.
So you have used quite a lot of legal terminology in your story, alleged debt, and some kind of promise paper. Would you? Not everybody is aware of all this terminology. Would you simplify it for listeners a little bit and explain them what is that sign note means? What and obviously you're saying that your alleged debt was wiped out by the banks. Does that mean you didn't have to pay that, or in the first place they shouldn't lie to you basically, or done a fraud? And third, why did this judge judged you just looking at the face value of the case instead of going detailed into the case?
Well, let me answer that last question first. And I think that the judge finally read my pleading, my story, my complaint, and I laid out exactly the crimes that the bank has been committing. And so he read that, and back to being brainwashed. You have all the attorneys, you have all the judges, the whole system is set up for this one belief. So that is a problem when you deal with the courts, because they're already brainwashed into this attitude, and it is so standardized. They run them through 30 or 40 credit card cases a court session, and the attorneys are all lined up there. They go through the routine. They say the same thing over and over again. Rarely does any card member show up. And if they do show up, they say, "Oh, Judge," and the judge's like, "Do you have credit card debt?" "Yes, I do." There you go. You've admitted it. So now what? I just don't have all the money to pay. Well, you go outside and work a deal out with the attorney here, and they'll come back later and they've worked a settlement agreement out or whatever. So, and if not, they just get a judgment and they move on. So it's just routine. So I wrote a book called Forgive and Forget: How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. And in there is Act 1, Scene 1, which is a courtroom situation that I lived through, and also with my expert CPA witnesses that I have used in court to explain to the judge there is no credit card, and we go through that whole thing. So that's kind of answer to your questions. Why would the judge do that? Is the judge is there to preserve the system, the status
Mm,
quo, and they
mm,
can't have these things in the court record that I win because then everybody's going to do it. So
mm.
that's why they've got to stop this. They know the crime's committed. Maybe they don't know the crime, but there is a crime going on, and they're all part of it, whether they're aware of it or not. But
If you had to
it,
explain this crime to a 8-year-old, which who has an understanding of English language, basic English language, how would you explain it to them?
that's a very good question. We just start with the question of alleged credit card. So now,
Mm,
is there a true credit card? Yes, there is. There's a true credit card, and you have to pay that. So I am not arguing to get out of debt. This is not a get out of debt scheme. This is
mm,
alleging that the banks have committed fraud. So what you do is, let's say you need tires for your car. You go into a tire store and you say to them, I really just don't have that much money for all 4 tires. Oh, no problem, Ash. Why don't you apply for the in-store credit card? And if you get approved, we'll put the tires on your car and you drive away. And you go, wow. And you apply, you're approved, and you drive away. Not a problem. At the end of the month, you get a statement. And that's true.
mm,
The statement has an outstanding unpaid invoice, which is true. The invoice is the debt instrument that is evidence in court that you have a debt. It has a date, the tires they put on your car, the service, the taxes, whatever, shipping, terms and conditions. It's all right there on that one piece of paper. And that is your debt instrument. That would be an invoice that proves that you have a debt. So
mm.
if you have a store credit card, you owe it. Now, there are some store credit cards that are not legitimate. Again, alleged. So look on the back of your, let's say, Walmart or Amazon or some store card that's in any country. And if it says there, issued by Bank of America, Citibank, Bank of London, Bank of Tokyo, Bank of India, if it's a bank, it's a phony one because they did not sell you tires. They did not pay someone to put the tires on your car. They do not have an outstanding unpaid invoice. So therefore, they do not have a debt. And really, they don't have a credit card because that's what the credit is that you took something from the merchant, you promised to pay them. They agreed that you're going to pay them later and you didn't. And they actually have an invoice. They can go into court and say, look, the judge, they owe the money, they haven't paid, or they partially paid. We need the balance or we need it all paid in full. And so that's your evidence of a true credit card and a phony credit card.
Why would they give you money then?
Huh?
Let's say okay, we continue with the same example. I went to get the tires and I didn't have money. The tire seller told me, "Oh, next door is Bank of England. Why don't you go there, get a credit card, come back here, and then I'll give you the tires with your credit." So I go to Bank of England, get a credit card there because, new technology,
It's
everything is online. Simple. And then suddenly I have 10,000 pounds of credit. Then I paid for my 4 tires and then I'm happy go lucky.
right. And that's what you are. So it's a very good example. So yes, the store got paid that night. And who paid the store? You didn't have that 10,000 pounds to pay for your tires or whatever, but that store got paid. And who paid them that night or the next day?
I think it's the bank.
You're right. The bank
Yeah.
paid them. The only way that tire store would let you have their tires if they were going to get paid. And they knew they were going to get paid because the card was approved. And they got, okay, we're going to get paid for this deal. And they give you a receipt. That's the thing. Now, are you going to get a statement at the end of the month from the tire store about an outstanding unpaid invoice?
No, because it's already paid.
No, because they're already paid. You have a receipt. Those are your tires. You own them.
Yeah.
So where did the bank get this money? And this is what happens. So before I move into the loan argument, we both have to agree that the bank did not put tires on my car. They could not have issued a credit card. Now they shift argument because that's the problem. The bank plays a game. If you're a merchant and you come in, you say, "Hey, Charlie, I need 5 pounds of flour, a pound of sugar and, a pound of butter, and I'll pay you when my crops come in." You're not going to Charlie asking for a loan. So either the merchant is selling you their stuff or providing a service, or it's a bank. So you can't be both. So now we have the argument about it's a loan. Okay. So banks advertise to get you as a customer. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
They spend money to get you as a customer. In the olden days, when I was growing up, they would actually give you a toaster. So the bank would purchase toasters and wall clocks, and you'd come into the bank, and if you opened an account, they would give you a toaster. Why would they do that? To get you as a customer. One time in a newspaper, it said, come into our bank and deposit $25, and in 90 days, we will match it. So what did I do? I took my $25, put it into their bank, waited 91 days, and went and took out my 25 plus the $25 of the bank's money, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
closed the account. Now, did I steal? Did I rip off the bank?
No, they gave it to you
No.
because you are their favorite customer.
They gave it to me and they said, if you follow, now, if I took it out on day 89, they would not have given it to me because the deal was you had to keep it 90 days. I did. So on 91 days, they gave it to me. Was what I did, was that an immoral act for me to do that to the bank?
In my opinion, you didn't do anything immoral. It was your money. You gave it to them to keep for 90 days. Who knows? They have made more than $25 with your money in 90 days. They could have made $100 with that. They just gave you $25 because they promised you initially that they will match it in 90 days.
Right. It's the same thing when they sent you that 10,000 pound bank issued alleged credit card.
Okay, so that credit card doesn't actually have any money on it. It
No. It has
promise.
It's from their advertising budget. So their advertising budget paid the tire store to put tires in your car because you became a customer. The tire store, hey, go next door to the bank and get a credit card and then come back and pay for it. So they're like the agents, sales agents of the bank. So the bank knows that, so they got you as a customer. What's the big deal about that? I typed this up 2 months ago, and you can do the same thing. I said, in America, how much is the average American paying on a credit card on the fees? And it comes up to be $23.04. So if a bank has 1 million cardholders, they're bringing in $23 million a month. And this is the crime. This is the fraud that I discovered. Because what they're doing is charging you $23 for a free checking account. And that was not disclosed to you. So they make $23.04 every month. And so you received a statement at the end of the month and you thought it was a bill, right?
Yeah.
The bank issued credit card made it look like a bill. So what you did is you're a good person, a moral person, and you were indoctrinated with the lies and you didn't question, so you're brainwashed. You wrote a $500 check out to the bank. Now, let me think about this and then slow it down and you think and tell me what happened. The card came in the mail. You used the card. A statement came in the mail and you wrote a check out to the bank. Is that the first time the bank ever received your money?
I don't know because I
Okay, think about it.
when I'm spending money,
Well, the card came in the mail. You used the card. The bank sent you a statement for $500 to this bank you've never heard of before until you went into it.
That's correct. I have never heard about that bank before until I went to the tire store.
Absolutely correct. So that's the important thing. Banks are only set up for loans. Okay? Banks do not put tires on your car and they don't come out and do plumbing work on your house. They are involved in loans. So if you apply for a loan and you're turned down, do you still get the loan? No, you don't get the loan. But if you get approved for the loan, then you have to come out and you fill out loan documents. Do you remember all that paperwork you had to fill out?
So much paperwork.
You also have to have proof of income because what if the bank is pulled into court and the judge says, you're giving loans out to people who have no income? You are predatory. So the banks, knowing this is a big problem, they have to have due diligence and they have to make you prove you can actually prove and pay this loan back. Or why would you be approved? The other thing is you have to have collateral. So for a car loan, you put your car up. For a home loan, you put your home up. And if you want a personal loan and you put your yacht up for it, Well, then they have something that they can legally take away from you, sell it, take the money and keep it. And if they come up short, well, that's their problem. But if they come up long, then they have to give the money back to you. So they can't take your $1 million yacht and keep the $900,000 of a $100,000 loan. They have to give you back the difference if they come up long. Okay. It's the same. So banks are only about loans. So when you take money into a bank and leave it with the bank, you're actually loaning the bank money. And again, that is in your show notes on the very first link. So, and the second link talks about how banks can only make a loan if they have a promissory note. And in that book called Modern Money Mechanics, which is required reading for us in the accounting class, it says right before that, it makes mockery, it makes a joke. Of course, banks don't take deposits of money and loan it out. There wouldn't be enough money. So what banks do to make a loan is they accept your promissory note and they write numbers in your checking account. So when you took your $500 or 10,000 pounds and put it into the bank from thinking it was a bill, you actually funded your free checking account. Every subsequent purchase has been with your own money. At the end of the month, you get a statement, just like you get a statement from your checking account. Now think about this. Your normal checking account that comes every month, is that a bill? No. Right. Exactly right. It starts off with your beginning balance, your deposits, your checks, your paychecks and stuff, and then the checks you wrote and the debits
No,
and
it
the
just
fees
tells me
taken
how
out,
much
and you have
money
an
I
ending
got from
balance.
my
That is a
paycheck and then
statement.
how much I
Now,
spent,
you
things like
don't have
that.
this experience, but I did. My first job as an accountant, I had sat down at my desk and the CPA came up and he said, if you pay from a statement, I'm going to fire you. And he said it kind of angrily, so it sick in my mind. And I still have that image in my mind today. He explained to me that the bill could have been paid the previous week, and you don't know that. Do not believe a statement. Now, see the invoice here? That's what you pay from. But up over here in the corner is the department head's signature. So you do not pay any invoice unless the department head okays it. So I don't care about statements. I don't listen to any of that stuff. We only pay from a invoice. So that made a big impression on me. So that's what is happening is the bank does not have an invoice, and the only people that have an invoice is a store that you went in and you took their stuff out and they're waiting to be paid. So if they have an outstanding unpaid invoice, you owe that. You owe the money. This does not work for car loans. It doesn't work for auto loans or personal loans where you have put up collateral. In that loan process, they also have to look at your credit report. Your credit score determines your interest rate, and the last thing you sign is a promissory note. This is what is happening. So let me just kind of give you a little more background. So if you look up 1776 to present for the U.S. inflation rate, you'll see it flat until about World War II, and it takes off. I believe the Federal Reserve created the Depression on purpose. They jacked the rates up, which is true, but no one ever talks about what would be the reason to choke off the economy. They didn't have the power back then. But once they closed enough banks and absorbed enough banks, then they were able to be powerful enough to start this fiat system called the fractional banking. So what they do is they accept your promissory note and they write numbers, any numbers they want. They can be 10,000 pounds, 100,000 pounds. It doesn't matter to them because there was no 100,000 pounds taken out of the economy and given to you. This is pure inflation. So if there must be a motivation, because if you know this is going to happen, then what you do, the wealthy and all the little people take out loans now, knowing inflation is going to be higher. They're going to pay it back in cheaper dollars, cheaper pounds. So that's how they make money, knowing of inflation. And everybody just accepts inflation when for 100 years, 150 years, we didn't have any inflation at all in the United States, only until the fractional banking system and this whole rigged system set up. So that's the part of the story of what I want to share with you today.
Tommy, that story make me think a lot. And why? Is because in founders, so on our podcast, we invite quite a lot of guests who who are experts in venture capital funds. So if you have a startup, you go to venture capitalists, you tell them about your startup, and they invest into your startup. For example, somebody invests into your startup £100,000 for 10% of equity. So suddenly your startup is valuated on £1 million, right? But they take a risk on you because they're giving you £100,000. They are taking the risk because that money could have been gone. You will, the company is bankrupted, or you could make them tenfold, which is 10x that money. Whereas you're saying that if I'm going to a bank and I'm getting a credit card from a bank, which is issued by a bank, they are kind of just giving me a piece of plastic with my name on it and saying, oh, here you go. This is
Getting close,
a
getting close. What
bonding
is they
agreement
give
between you
you
and
a gift
me
card.
as a
So
bank
if you
that you
say
will
they
give me
issued you a credit
£10,000
card,
back.
you've got a
That
credit card,
is,
you got debt, you
is
can't
that what
argue
you're saying?
you'll lose
Or,
the argument, is what I'm trying to say. So
okay.
if you use the bank's terminology, you're going to lose because you're using the criminal's language. If you use the truth of the matter, they gave you the card. You did not purchase the card. You did not borrow the card. People will say they gave it to me. And sometimes they come in the mail without even applying. So they also have that thing in there about if you use the card, you are bound by the terms and conditions, like you said. And this is where in the United States, the Supreme Court has ruled over and over again that fraud undoes all contracts. If you don't disclose, that's not a valid contract. The same thing's going to happen in England. The same thing's going to happen in every country in the world because the courts are not set up for criminals to keep their criminal enterprise going and bringing you to court to force you to pay for a crime that you're a victim. So what I'm trying to get through to your audience is you are crime victims. You didn't start off with this whole plan. They foisted it on you. They sent it to you in the mail without even asking, without even applying, but then you didn't fill out any loan documents. So all you have to do is ask for the invoice and ask for a copy of the promissory note and an affidavit of debt. If they don't have that, they don't have any debt. They don't have a legitimate reason to stand on legally. So let's say you buy a house and the people selling it to you poured toxic waste in the front yard, and you and your children don't know that, and you're going to die in 5 years from this toxic waste right in your front yard. Do you still have to pay 30 years for that loan and that mortgage? You go to court and you say, wait a second, these people, deceived me. And that's the thing, they didn't disclose. The same thing with the bank. So when the card came in the mail, it's not a credit card because a credit card can only be issued by a merchant who then has a outstanding unpaid invoice or will have one. Now, what happens is when you wrote that check and mailed it to the bank, now there's a loan. That gift card turns into a debit card. So now you understand that every time you went to purchase something, it wasn't on credit, it was on debit, because when you paid, the bank took money out of your account and paid the merchant. So who paid the merchant on your second purchase has been with your own money. You've just been lied to and over generations. And if you don't question it, you've been brainwashed to write the check and keep sending a check. If you still say you have credit card debt, don't listen to me. That's fine. But if you call this into question, now all you have to do is don't get out of debt. This is not a get out of debt. What you're asking the bank to do is to close your free checking account. But you need to withdraw the money first. And the only way you can withdraw the money is by using the debit card. The other people indoctrinated and brainwashed are going to say maxing out the card. So it sounds illegal. It sounds immoral that if you max out your card, but that's when you take on the criminal's side of point of view. I'm asking you to withdraw your money from your checking account because if you don't do that, the bank is going to confiscate and steal your money. In a normal checking account, you close the account. Oh, sorry, Ash, we're sorry to see you leave. Here's your $5 and here's your £5 and 31 pence. That's so sorry to see you leave. But they give you the money, not these. These free checking accounts, they keep the money. So for most of my clients I help, I'm able to find them dollars, pounds, Deutschmarks, euros. So before they close the account, they get the money out of it first. Then all you do is ask the bank to close the account, and they will because you're explaining to them what crime is they've committed. Back to the judge. I'm trying to explain to the judge that's a debit card. A gift card turns into a debit card, but he wouldn't let me
Why did
start at the
this gift
beginning.
cards or
You start at
cards
the end.
say
What's it say
credit
on the
card on
credit
top
card?
of it?
Well, that's the fact. So they've all been brainwashed and how to dismiss this case without going any further. So no one else does this crazy idea of suing the banks and winning. Winning? Well, I didn't have to pay that $35,000, $85,000 of credit card debt, but it wasn't debt. It was my own money. It, there's not $1.3 trillion of credit card debt. What it is, the banks want you to deposit $1.3 trillion back into your free checking account. That's all they want you to do. So all what happened to me is they do one click and it's off your credit report. So there's not a loss. They don't take, there's no, it's going to be a loss of future income. Because remember, every card member brings them in $23.04. So if they give you a $500 credit card, in about 23 months, they're going to make the money back. And then for the next 10, 20, 30 years, you're going to be paying $23.04 on average. Some people pay a lot more. Interest rates could be as high as 79.9%. That's what I have seen on one card. And other ones have all kinds of annual fee. One guy told me he's paying $800 a year to use the card. He's paying $800 for a free checking account.
I pay 800, 700 pounds a year to use my credit card. It's very normal here in England. If you want that kind of privileges which that credit card provides you, then you pay.
See, you're
And
being brainwashed.
the
You're
reason we pay is
brainwashed. You're saying,
because the
I'm
privileges
paying
that
800
card
pounds a
gives
year
us
for a free
is quite
checking
good.
account.
We
For the
feel that
privilege.
we're
The
using those
privilege is
services.
using your own money.
Um,
There's not enough money to loan out to everybody. So when you have that
that's what I'm
scenario
thinking
of
now.
these
Yeah.
venture capitalists have their money, they can give it to you, to one of your people, one of your founders, or they could give it to somebody else. But what they're doing is they're not giving it to somebody in the economy. They've taken $100,000 out of the economy and they're going to give it to you. You're going to put it into the economy. So that keeps it in balance. What I'm talking about is that when the banks give you a loan, they write numbers, any numbers they want. Nothing holds them back from writing any number they want in the account as long as you promise to pay. But since you didn't promise to pay, it's not a loan. So it's again, it takes a while to undo the language. And I have a long list of words we don't use, and we use these words instead. Okay.
Interesting. So talk to us more about that story then. So you didn't won the case,
Yeah.
but you didn't have to pay the alleged debt, if I may.
Right.
And that makes you feel
And
that
this
you won,
will give you, yeah,
but
and this will
maybe
give you
you
more
didn't
evidence to
have
what you
to
just
win
said. In America,
because
we
there
have a
was
thing
no
called a
lose
1099-C.
loss in
My
the
dad being a
whole
CPA, I
fake
grew up with the
scenario
IRS as
kind
part of
of
my DNA.
situation
So
because it was based on a
what
fraud.
happens is the bank, if they loan you $100,000 and you don't pay them back, they notify the IRS that you got $100,000 and you got to pay taxes, $35,000, $45,000 typically on that income. They get to take a tax deduction of $100,000 because they had a so-called loss. Okay. So I was not sued for $85,000 plus court fees and attorney fees. They could have gotten $100,000 out of me, right? But they didn't come after me. They let it go. The other one is I never received a 1099-C because in my pleading, I explained that if they did do that, I would file a 3949A. So again, it's very helpful to have knowledge of the IRS. So what that form is to let the IRS know that the bank has committed tax fraud. What they have done is they've issued an erroneous 1099-C. So there was never a loan. I never received the income because I didn't. It was my own money I'd been spending. And just because I didn't put $85,000 back up into my 3 credit card accounts, that's what they said I was a debt. It wasn't a debt. It was just below what I wanted to start with. You don't have to keep money in your checking account. Well, they might say if you got to keep a minimum $5 or something like that. I understand that, but they don't have to force me to keep putting money in my checking account if I don't want to. But that's what the credit card story scheme is get you to pay that. So then what happened is a friend of mine had a charity, a dormant charity, and she gave it to me. And so I revamped it to be credit repair. many people who had credit problems on the credit report also had bank issued alleged credit card. So I would go through their cards and say, pay this one, pay that one. Well, why do you say that and not these? These are all bank cards. These are phony, and those are true credit. You have to pay those. And they say, okay, if I don't have to pay $1,000, I can easily pay these other cards off completely. There you go. And that's a true credit card. So don't close that. That's a real good credit card. Keep them and use that about 10% every month, and it'll raise your credit score. These here, I would write a letter to the bank laying out the crime they committed. If they issued a 1099-C, what we would do in exchange, and they took it off the credit report. They didn't write the customer back saying, oh, so sorry, we'll see you go. They didn't ever respond. All they did was take it off the credit report. So now when they're higher amounts, they push back. So some of my clients would go to court with me doing it pro se by themselves. And we got there, the attorney was not prepared to have a question of where's the invoice? Judge, we don't have one. Well, where's the promissory note? We don't have one. So we would meet outside and we'd have the agreement and we'd bring it in for the judge to read. And the judge was astounded. He's going, you're going to take it off the credit report? Okay. And he would sign off on it and dismiss the case. And we would walk out in victory because they agreed to take it off the credit report. That's all we want the bank to do. Take it off the credit report. There's nothing else that's going to happen. So none of my people got a 1099-C. It's the only time when my people would not do it themselves, and I had to hire an attorney. They lied to me, a barrister. They lied to me. They wanted anything. They would say anything and everything to me to get that retainer. Once I gave them a retainer, all their heels rolled back. They didn't want to do any work. We'd go to court. I'd have my CPA, ACA expert witness who would testify. And the story would be, the judge would ask the attorney these questions like they asked me, and he's going to admit that he's got a credit card. Well, Mr. Attorney, you're bringing fraud to the court. Well, wait, my client has a day in court. Okay, so we bring up the expert witness, and then the attorney says, the judge asked me if I have a credit card. Do I have a credit card? And the expert witness say no. Okay, would you please educate me and the judge why this is not, it says credit card on it. Do you see that right there? It says credit card. Yes, but you're telling me it's not a credit card. That's exactly 100% correct. It's not a credit card. It's a lie. They are deceiving you. It's fraud. So with that, the attorney, right before we go to court, would back out. Oh, I can't go in front of this judge. I got other clients. That's not going to look good for me. I can't look like an idiot, and would pull out. Who I can help, primarily the little people who have a little bit of credit, I send a letter. What the best thing I'm looking for is a company, a business who's about to go bankrupt. It's a viable business, but they're spending so much on this alleged bank-issued credit card debt. So if that was gone, they could be in business. But what about all their board of directors? They've all invested and maxed out their cards, just like what Dell did. When Dell started, he uses credit cards. But a lot of your people that are listening to the show have used their credit cards thinking they're going to be the next Dell, and it's not working out. And think of all the employees. So what I want to do is have the big meeting. The CFO, which is most likely a CPA and ANA, is going to say to the audience, look, we have been defrauded. The bank does not have an invoice. There never was a promissory note. We don't owe them any money. And the attorney, who's most likely their vice president, is going to get up and say, fraud undoes all contracts. They didn't disclose that to us. This is a free checking account, as you heard our CPA just tell you. So we're going to be filing a lawsuit, but we don't file it, okay? So you draft up a lawsuit that has all the crimes they've committed, and then you go in for discovery. So you're asking the bank for documents, questions, admissions, and a deposition. So when the bank gets this, it's not been filed. There's no payment to the court. So, but the bank is going to get this, and it's also going to have a deposition date. So they know in about 10 days after responding, they're going to have a deposition. But here's the best thing. It's called an injunction. So Ash, if someone is bothering you, let's say a debt collector, and you have no idea who these people are, you can go into court and not to sue them, but to stop them. Now, it's more recent in the news because anything that Trump does, someone runs into court and files an injunction and everything all stops. Remember that? It's all in the news. This is the same thing. So the bank is going to receive this before the lawsuit is even filed, and we don't want to file it. But they are going to be informed that if they sue us or we sue them, they're going to receive an injunction, which means the judge is going to have to see an invoice, an outstanding unpaid invoice. They're going to have to see a signed promissory note. They're also going to have to see the affidavit of debt. Someone inside the bank has to swear out that there's a debt and they have the material interest. They have the material proof evidence of this. If they don't do that in 30 days, they're in contempt of court, and it stops everything. So when the bank receives this brick of legal work, they're going to go through and they're going to go, this is going to take 40 hours at $500 an hour. It's 20,000. Just what do they want? And you're going to have the corporate credit card, alleged credit card debt gone, and the board of directors, their credit cards gone, and the employees, any employee wants to sign on. And so all the names there, and all we're asking them to do is click, 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 click off the credit report and move on.
That's very interesting. I mean, I can literally have another episode with you recording on the same topic, because we never had a discussion like this on our show before. We never had an understanding of this kind of high level fraud going on in the industry. So tell me, Tommy, then, we say these credit card companies are giant. They are $1 trillion, pound, whatever currency companies, right? They have all the powers in the world.
I
They have
get
all the
that
legal
question.
people, with them to fight these
Well,
cases.
in my calculations,
If
I
they
figured
know
out the
that
bank is
they're
making
doing
about
this fraud,
1/4
why
of their
don't they
profits
stop?
from this criminal enterprise.
Why don't they
So
put
if
some
we call them
protocols,
banksters,
in
then what
place
do you
so that it
expect from
doesn't
a
happen?
criminal? You want the drug dealer to go straight? You want them to go get a job and work at a convenience store? They're not going to do that. They're going the easy way out. They're going to do the crime. It's easy. So they've got it all set up. They have the lies, the indoctrination, and they've got the judges brainwashed. They got all the attorneys brainwashed. So you don't go to an
No,
attorney.
no.
I will not help anyone unless they have a third party telling them I'm actually 100% correct. So this is not a scam. It's not any way of defrauding people. And then I invite to speak to their attorney, not first, because all I'm going to get is an argument from a guy who's brainwashed. I got to have the CPA tell the attorney that there's fraud going on. And then they go, how can you say that? Well, there's no invoice and there's no promissory note. And that's what is required, because the attorney doesn't know accounting, or they'd be an accountant. So accountants don't know law. So that's fine. But there is no, you do not have a contract with someone who doesn't disclose and is doing things fraudulently. So we do not have a contractual agreement. And back to what the attorney's going to ask the bank to do is just close those free checking accounts and take this off the credit report.
Very interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that, Tommy. I mean, we can talk about it all day long, but we are limited with the time.
Okay.
And you have educated our listeners quite a lot. But we have another section in our podcast, which is called
Let's
the
see.
lightning
I'll do
round,
the
where
best
we
I can.
have
Let's see.
6 quick fire question for you. So if you're ready, we can go. And don't feel obliged. If you feel that this question you don't want to answer, you just give me a skip, and then we move on to the next one. How does that sound? Great stuff. Question number 1. What are the top
in the
3
60s,
strategies
my brothers
or
wore a
top
button on
3
their shirt. They are part of the
rules of
anti-war movement
thumb
and said,
to
question
follow
authority.
in order to protect
Those
yourself
people
from
that were
this
protesting are
banking
now in
fraud
government,
in
Obama
current
and other
world?
kinds of radicals, and it's now unquestionable authority. So the first thing to do is question authority. That's the most important thing. Like I said in the beginning, is open your mind up. Your mind's like a parachute. It only works when it's open. And then you've been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed. So now just start to use the word allege and see what happens. The book that made the most influence on me is from any book by Buckminster Fuller. And Buckminster Fuller was the guy behind the geodesic dome.
Interesting.
In
What book would you recommend to
1983,
our
I read
audience,
his
and why?
obituary. I never heard of that guy before. But ever since then, I've read every book the guy's published, and said many times, 3 and 4 times, 3 or 4 times I've read his books. So I am here in the Philippines to teach farmers how to build dome houses with bamboo. And so we have a process where I teach the farmer how to do it, but also teach them how to have a business. Because now with the online calculator, anyone that wants a size dome, meters or in feet, height or width, tells the farmer what they want, and they're able to make a kit. The kit comes to the job site and no tools are necessary. The kit has zip ties. So they're able to erect a 8-meter, 25-foot dome in about 4 hours by one person. And it's all zip ties, takes no tools. The other thing I hear to do is, and that's where is also the geometry of thinking. So everything in my life is always based on a vector, a stick, and a stick comes to another stick. And now I have two sticks, and it's like a plow pushes people away, but it also can be a funnel that scoops people to me. So I push people away that's not good around me, and I attract people who are good to me. So that's the thing I base it on, is attracting people. And then it builds into structures, and you have flatland, and then it builds into a tetrahedron, octahedron, icosahedron, and these are all shapes that help me in my thinking. So that's why I'm always thinking there's 4 different dimensions of a tetrahedron, flipping in and flipping out. So I look at it this way, yes and no, that way, yes and no. What's the opposite of this? What's the opposite of that? So I don't assume the bank is doing things properly. Wait a second. So again, it backs to questions authority, and it's back to my visualization of geometry, and that's how I think. So that would be the most important book. Synergetics is his most famous book. So yes, it's either
Thank you for
too
that.
much or too little.
What's one
So
attribute or
for most
characteristic
people that
in
have been
your
brought up in
mind
poverty
of a
and lost,
successful
when they get
founder
a
when
dollar,
it
they
comes
spend
to
it right
managing
away. And that's what
finances?
happens here in the Philippines. It's just the nature of the Philippines being in a typhoon, earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, and it's just quite common over their history to be wiped out. And so they don't look at tomorrow, they look at today. So in their finances, when they got a dollar, they spend it. But then the next day they don't have it, they don't have it. It's the other side is when you have too much, then it's a problem too. So how do you balance this if you don't have the knowledge and education? A simple thing that I was relating to my girlfriend is that when my son was in daycare, I went over to my friend's daycare and she had them all sit in a circle passing a penny. Then all of a sudden there was 2 pennies to pass. And then there were 3 pennies, 4 pennies, and they were giggling and laughing because there were handfuls of pennies because she was introducing more and more pennies as they passed the pennies around, right? So then she said, okay, everybody stop, hold on to a penny. How many do you have? And they said, we have 1. She says, right. If you pass the penny, you get many. If you hold the penny, you don't get any. So to your listeners, what I'm trying to get through to you is if you hold on to your wealth, you're not doing anything good. It's the idea is to pass the penny, pass that energy from someone else. And how you get this energy is by doing something that changes their life. So I'm here to change the life of the people here, that they can have instant housing, free housing within hours of a storm and a destruction. I'm also teaching vertical farming and also going to set up free medical clinics. So I wrote this book to get the funds to help support what I'm doing here. So the more I give, the more I'm going to get, but the more I get, I've got to pass it to someone else who's going to do, again, more good than when you start off with. So change someone's life is the most important thing to do. Really simple. I come up with a free revolution. There's a guy on YouTube called Myron Golden,
Great
and
stuff.
he has
What's a
a
new or
video
a
called
crazy business idea
It's
you would love
Easier
to
Now to
pursue
Become
if you had
Wealthier Than
time?
Any Time in the History. And that he goes through the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, distribution revolution, computer information, infotainment, and now kind of like this partnershiping kind of thing. I've come up with the idea of the free revolution. So I'm writing a book right now on how you can profit by giving food away for free, and another book on how you can profit by giving housing away for free. In this world we live in today, everybody expects everything to be free. Free Wi-Fi, free shipping, free everything, sugar-free, cholesterol-free, everything is free, free, free. So I've taken that to a whole nother way. This is the plan I'm going to be doing here in the Philippines. I'm looking for a restaurant to purchase. I don't have the funds, but just to be able to use it in the beginning. Somehow, some way, someone's got a restaurant through family members or through friends will get something. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take finished product. Let's say like try carrot cake. Okay, we know what carrots and you put in a cake and it's sweet. I'm going to take that to a vendor that is selling fruits and vegetables and say, here's a carrot cake. It's all packaged nicely. It's ready for retail sale. You can sell it for anything you want, and I'm giving it to you for free. There's not such thing as a free lunch. And they can say, what can I do for you? Give me trash. That would be a treasure to me. They go, what do you mean? Here's 2 buckets. This bucket here is for all your scraps of stuff that's not edible. Put it in this bucket here, and that's going to feed my chickens, my goats, my pigs, my everything, all the animals are going to eat this. Or if it's so bad, it feeds the soil. So now I have enrichment for the soil. This other bucket is food that's about to rot that you know you can't sell, but throw it in here and I will bring that back as bread, cookies, candy, jams, jelly. What do you want? Well, I'd really like to have a dinner. Okay, I'll bring you back chicken dinner. And so it's a barter system, but they get the benefits. I bring them finished good. Let's say it's worth $10. They give me $1 or $2 of rotting
Sort of
vegetables.
like
They're
a
going to throw
barter
away
system.
anyway.
Yeah.
So I want their trash to be my treasure. As I keep doing this, I'm going to be building up a huge amount of food. Then I have free labor. How do I get a free chef? Here in the Philippines, it costs about $9,000 to go to school to be a chef, and it's 4 hours a day for a year. I want my chef to come to our house that also has a kitchen in it. So they sleep there, they get free food, so the room and board is free, and we'll give them an allowance, and they're to cook all day and bake all night for 3 months, 90 days. When they intensely do this for 90 days, they're going to come out as a chef because they're going to know the science behind this whole process of boiling water. They're going to know the temperature of water. They're going to know different ways of boiling water. They're going to know about eggs, about the different ways of cooking the egg, how to crack open the egg, consistency, differences in their hand. They're going to feel a commercial egg and a home-raised egg. And that home-raised egg for a souffle stays up. With the ones industrial commercial ones, they collapse because it's just not properly made egg. They're going to have the science and know all cuisines. So they're going to be producing all this food called Art You Eat. And it's free food. But people have to pay for a reservation. So they pay for reservation up front, so already paid, so the restaurant doesn't have the waste.
Yeah.
So I have great ideas for the free revolution. So yeah, thanks for asking.
Yeah.
That I know sign language. And I was in a jitney, which is a kind
Thanks
of
for
bus
sharing
here in the
that, Tommy.
Philippines.
And last but not
And
least,
with my
what's
girlfriend,
an
we climb in. I
interesting or
see these
fun
two
fact
guys. I
about you
thought they
that
might know
most
sign
people
language.
don't
And we
know?
sit down. And she says, these are my, I know them. They're friends of mine. So I started talking to them in sign language. I didn't talk in English, and they didn't speak Hiligaynon. And so everybody in the bus is watching me, a white guy, signing to two Filipinos, and we're talking back and forth on the bus. So that's a fun thing that we want to put a party together to help teach people how to do sign language, Hiligaynon, and English. So we're bringing expats and anybody that wants to come to learn sign language
Talking to.
or Hiligaynon or English. So it'd be a party to have a language party. That's what I'm going to probably call it. Yeah.
Great stuff. Well,
The
Tommy,
best way is
thank
my
you
name right
so
there
much
is
for
just
joining me
Tommy A.
and sharing your
Kilpatrick. And so
story,
that's on Facebook.
unpacking
And
all
in the
this
show notes,
wisdom.
that there'll be there and the link
If
to
people
get
want
there.
to get in
And
touch
also an
with you, they
email.
have
So I
questions.
offer a
What's the
free
best way
15-minute
to do it?
consultation. And I also offer, if you do that, I'll give you my $69 book for free. So give me a call. I'm available. It's a flip book. It's a quick read. It's a very
Great
entertaining
stuff.
read. So yes, it's a
I
very
would
short
love to
read.
have a copy of it if you would share with me. I read books on Kindle. I don't know if you have a Kindle version. Don't mind reading it on Kindle. But I'll give it a go. Great stuff. Well, Tommy, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your inspiring journey and the impactful work you're doing through your, spreading your wisdom. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Founders Podcast.